rise. Judge Arthur Covington Smythe presiding. Upon what charges does the defendant stand accused?
Oh, hi, Arthur. It's me, Harry, Meghan Markle Windsor. I didn't know you were a judge.
Yes, I funded my translation pursuits with money I made as a barrister. Graduated with law, 1983. Anyway, what charges?
Causing
Where's your lawyer?
When I heard that Dr. Jackson was going to be representing himself, I thought, what the hell? If he can do it, so can I. But when Meghan heard about what I'd done, she wasn't happy. Were you, Meghan?
Yeah, Harry signed the papers when I wasn't there, right? And I have to be honest, I was a little bit angry.
Was she?
But we had it changed so we will be representing us. Harry will not be representing me. I mean, can you imagine?
Okay, fine. Charges?
Willfully causing GSH, grievous spiritual harm.
And how do you plead, Dr. Cobalt Jackson?
Cobalt?
Yes.
That's really your name? Cobalt?
Yes.
Cool name.
I was just going to say that. Anyway, how do you plead, Dr. Jackson?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Right. Then let's hear the prosecution's opening statement.
Once upon a time,
We had already lost so much, you know? We always felt bereft and hard done by in whatever mansion we stayed in. So we arranged a few media dates, you know, to help get our side of the story out. We were vulnerable. I mean, really vulnerable, you know? The press hated us. And the royal family was so rigid. I mean, they wouldn't submit to our every whim. They wouldn't even let me put air fresheners in that musty old chapel we got married in. We stepped out on our own, and we created a wonderful foundation. But coronavirus hit us really hard. I mean, we were really prevalent in the media before the outbreak of the pandemic. You know, there've been a lot of tragic stories related to COVID-19, but our one seems to have sort of gotten lost.
it's like nobody even cared. I mean, we were guaranteed front page nearly every paper before the pandemic. I mean, there's no vaccination for that.
We even started to use the foundation to update our subscribers with, you know, reliable COVID information, filtering out the misinformation.
We were going to be the first port of call for your latest accurate COVID updates.
But there didn't seem to be much appetite for it, you know? We weren't the first port of call for COVID information. And we think that's mainly because of some right-wing memes and the all-shadowing wings of white supremacy. But, you know, we just let it go because, you know, I don't hold grudges.
She doesn't, you know. And if you say she does, she'll come after you. Doesn't matter how long it takes.
Harry, remember what I said?
Oh, sorry.
I think you better take a moment, you know, to be with yourself. Judge, is it okay if Harry takes a moment to be with himself?
That phrase could be translated in a number of different ways. It's quite fine, as long as it would be deemed decent in polite society.
After being demoted, you know, below the pandemic in terms of newsworthiness, I instructed our people to arrange some more interviews, you know, to get us out there. And Dr. Jackson seemed nice, you know. He was an inventor, he's an engineer, and he said he wanted to help. He said he wanted to help show the world who we really were, right? We agreed to the interview in good faith, right? But his questions were tricky, and his motives were sinister. You know, behind that smiley facade, there lies a man quite capable of committing heinous acts of spiritual cruelty. I'm too trusting I think, right? You know? For that, I'm to blame. For that, I'm guilty. Okay? But when I look back at what he did to us and how he treated us, it kind of feels worse every time.
It was ambush journalism.
Harry, we were invited to his house.
Yeah, it wasn't quite ambush journalism, more of a pre-arranged interview, the opposite of. But he signed a contract to say he wouldn't ask questions that he ended up asking.
No, Harry, we didn't get him to sign anything. It's another fault of ours, I'm just too trusting.
Well, okay, he didn't actually sign anything, but, come on. He didn't even offer us a drink.
Yes, he did, Harry. Both alcoholic and non. You had 2 amarettos.
Oh, yeah.
Your Honor, he put us on the stake, and he burnt us on the fires of public opinion, which was spitting and roasting hotter with every word he spoke. He set us up to humiliate us and all we stand for, which is basically love. And with that act, he committed, with full intent, grievous spiritual harm upon us and the whole flock who cradle under our banner.
We will now hear evidence from the prosecution.
Well, as you'll see in this first clip, Dr. Jackson was clearly mocking my Meghan, but in such a clever, devious way that neither of us even realised he was doing it. Sorcery, if you ask me. Play the clip.
I mean, do you know what it's like? Living that life? Do you know what that's like? Do you know how hard that is? A soul so sensitive that you can see problems that aren't even there. And the riffraff of the palace gave you back chat.
I know. Can you believe it?
Hardly, Harry.
Hard to believe, eh? I'm tempted to say we'll rest our case just there. But no, we'll carry on. That was taken from our second interview. This one here, the next clip, is taken from our third interview. Just watch carefully how he makes me look stupid.
It's called love, but some people still won't let love into their hearts, right? Instead, they just spew darkness in the forms of racism and climate change and insults on my character.
The big 3.
But what about the journalists who say no? We're just holding you account for the rampant hypocrisy that defines your very existence, they may say.
Well, I bet they wouldn't say that to my face. I'm a strong man. Very alpha.
I know this is getting hard to watch, but please, don't avert your eyes. This next clip is also from the third interview, and only shortly after the clip you just saw. Play.
I mean, everyone needs to give themselves a mental hug once in a while.
Not now, Harry. Well, that rather bizarre display of autotrophic love chemosynthesis brings us neatly onto our next question, Harry. Recently you said that Meghan pushed you into therapy and then immediately backtracked and said it was a slip of the tongue. Which one was it? I mean, can you really imagine me pushing anyone into anything? I can honestly say, Meghan, I have no doubt in my mind at all. I know, right?
But these clips you've just seen aren't even the most egregious offence. Oh, did I get that right, Meghan? Egregious.
Yes.
Now look at this clip where he holds us to an agreement we made in writing. Right there, live on TV.
Okay, but just back to Mr. Markle for a second. How does failing to invite him to your wedding, ostracising him and keeping him away from his grandchild, square with your endless preaching about compassion, forgiveness, understanding?
Yeah, well, he started it. He was the one getting measured for a suit and telling the paparazzi so they could get photo shots of him doing it, getting measured up for the suit, for the wedding. We didn't even invite him to. He asked for this. He was nasty to my Meghan. He upset my Meghan. She's amazing. Upsetting Meghan's the most unamazing thing you can possibly do in your whole life. No, I've got a bit passionate there, actually. Can we go again?
No, we can't really do that, Harry. I mean, we did agree one take. We want to show the people at home the real Harry and Meghan.
Oh no, but it makes me look stupid.
I don't think you really need to worry about that anymore, Harry.
Meghan, over to you.
What you've just seen, right, was a sustained spiritual assault, which took place over 3 interviews and dozens of questions. We were vulnerable at the time, spiritually vulnerable, right? And that's what makes the crime so grievous.
We just spread our wings to go it alone, with nothing more than luxury shelter, fine foods and wads of cash.
Dr. Jackson never broke any of the rules we agreed upon. He never reneged on any part of the contract. But that was part of his strategy, right?
He's cunning, I'll tell you that straight.
He was awful without being unfair. He was insulting without being dishonest. And he was obnoxious without being cruel.
The calling cards of white supremacy.
Dr. Jackson is not a white supremacist. I mean, that much is obvious. But he has been infected by its heritage. He is a covert case, you know. He manifests his white supremacy without the faintest idea he's doing it, right? Which is exactly why white supremacy is the most dangerous virus on this planet. And it is
It's something we're not doing enough about.
a serious threat to the cohesion, right, of loving people, you know, people who are loving. And
Harmony.
and eclipses the possibility that a true oneness can be formed via a entirely awakened mindset, which could
Be amazing.
Oh, will you shut up?
Objection.
Overruled. You can't object to your own prosecution.
Oh yeah.
We shall now hear the defense. Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Judge. I think I've been mischaracterized by my accusers.
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled. He hasn't even said anything yet.
My deep sense of intrigue in the pseudo-royal couple stems from the fact that Meghan Markle and Harry Meghan Markle Windsor, to some degree, have their fingers on the fault lines, on the rupture points. They have become so significant, so important, immensely important, because they embody the clashing frontiers of modernity and tradition. Meghan and Harry pursue their course with an astounding vigour. Nothing is ever too much, too low, or too cringeworthy. They stick their necks out on the line for what they believe in, and I respect that.
Did he just say he respected me?
He said us, probably me more. He put my name first. If they really and truly want to ensnare the world in their net of moral codes and enforced regulation, they need to appeal to a wider audience. Their emotion-filled brains sometimes can't see the harder truths. Too busy are they concentrating on love. To appeal to a wider audience, you need to prove the foundations of your beliefs and your vocalized mantras. You need to be subjected to tough questioning to make sure they make sense. I wanted to help in that way. We can only assume they do make sense, considering the passion with which they project their views and the frequency. But no one had really helped them explain their popcorn principles and the candified codes of conduct they preach. So I thought I'd help out. And as I said during our third interview, the one that ended so abruptly, I was trying to coat their arguments in a molten steel by subjecting it to the most valid criticisms around. And that way, I thought it would make their arguments stronger and their viewpoints easier to defend. And that's what I was doing. I was trying to help. They didn't invite me to. They didn't ask me to. But, you know, they know all about that. I mean, they've made a living out of it. Their heads were filled with honeycomb, phosphorus, foamy feelings. How can they be expected to be logical about anything? So I jumped in and tried to help. And so I plead not guilty, Your Honour, although I don't blame my accusers. I understand how they might have been hurt, although I never intended it to be the case. What I can say is, and I say it to both of them, and I swear it to be as true as any sentence uttered on this planet. That if I wasn't as communist as both of you are, I wouldn't get any work.
Oh, I've heard enough. I've heard enough. Did we drop our case? Dismiss it, dismiss it.
Even though Harry shouldn't have spoken before me, I agree. Dr. Jackson's words have really moved me, especially the part about how we both like to give advice nobody asked for. That's something that's very important to me.
Case dismissed, charges dropped. And I must say, I'm glad. I hope to see more interviews in the future. Been watching them during the trial. Jolly good. Oh, and out of interest, what verdict was the jury leaning towards?
We were leaning towards not guilty, mainly because GSH, grievous spiritual harm, isn't a real crime.
I'm giving serious consideration to growing back my beard. Well, if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, share and hit the notification button. And don't forget to check out the description below for Patreon accounts and the website we've just created. Get on there and sign up.